Here.
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 Mr. Zabrowski?
Here.
Dr. Macri?
Here.
Ms. Ionesco? Here. Ms. Berry? Here. Mr. Lozano?
Here.
Mr. Bennington? Here. Mr. Butwell?
Here.
Ms. Cochiola? Here. Mrs. Demara? Here. Mrs. DeTuno? Here. Mr. Puckle? Mr. Lemay?
Here.
Dr. McLean? Here. Mrs. Maher Prestash? Here. Mrs. Millbrook? Here. Ms. O'Leary? Here. Ms. Shepherd? Here. Ms. Helmut? No, she's out. Ms. Weisful? Here.
Thank you. All right, moving on to approval of our agenda, any additions, deletions, and the review is, we have one item on the agenda this evening, basically, and that is our budget presentation. Do you have anything to add or change with, it's a special meeting, so we can't anyway, so disregard. What?
Shoot.
Do you need to change it?
We don't need, the only thing is the health benefits, we finally got the final number. So Mr. Butwell has updated slides with the right number in it.
That's fine, that's part of the presentation.
Okay, I just panicked. We
Don't
have it
scare
in
me.
front of you. Okay, I'm like, wait.
Okay.
That scared me too. Okay, yeah, same content, yes.
All right, so is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Catherine, second?
Second.
Matt, all in favor? Opposed, abstentions? Motion carries. Agenda is approved. Public comments. Is there anyone here for a public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to new business. Action item A, which is just approval of our minutes and motions from our January 14th regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve them or any changes? Motion to approve. Alan, second. Alicia, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Steve Heisman, anyone else? All right, motion carries. Minutes are approved. And item B, on to our proposed 2025-2026 education budget presentation with possible action.
Great, thank you. Steve, can you put it up there? I'm sorry. It's okay. I'll just first quickly start out with saying thank you to the awesome people in this room, our administrative team. It was a collective effort of everyone in this room to prepare this budget. And we had a great time actually collaborating with the town as well to figure out how we can fund a lot of our facilities, our CNRs. It's just been really a great start of the year with preparing this budget. It's such a different feel than 6 years ago. I really feel like we're all on the same team wanting to do what's best for the children of Cromwell, but really for the town of Cromwell. So I thank the Board of Finance, town manager, the mayor, everyone for everything they do. And then I thank all of you for taking the time to look at this binder. I am elated with having Mr. Butwell join our team. This is his first budget presentation. He has worked tirelessly to make this as perfect as we absolutely can. So a huge thank you to Mr. Butwell. He is exactly what I expected and even more so. Some of the things that he's going to talk to you about later, it's just going to blow your mind of the things that he's figured out in collaboration with our administrators. So thank you so much, Mr. Butwell. We will present. I have the directors up here in front. Oh, and I would be remiss if I didn't thank the administrative assistants and central office team to help put these binders together. Everyone just works so beautifully together. So thank you to everyone. First, before we start, I would like to bring to your attention, and Mr. Butwell will tell you where to put it. So what happened is as we put this together, we were waiting for the benefits number to come in and a couple other things to shake out. And we had already sent the binders to you. So we have some good news. The benefits went from a 17% increase to we locked it in with the town and Dave Caslin at Cigna at 7%, which has brought this number down, and I was able to put something back in that I really did not want to see cut. So Mr. Butwell will tell you about what's in front of you and where to put it.
Okay. Ooh, thank you. I did put a cover sheet on the changes, so hopefully you were able to find the places in your binder that they go. Just a few changes, which is the updated, basically, slideshow with the newer numbers, The executive summary page is now new because of the changes, and staffing and benefits, the benefits page is new, and we had a adjustment in some of our student services, so you had 2 pages to add into there. So hopefully you were able to figure out where they go from the direction sheet.
Okay, so we will start off with the most important reason why we're all here is the second page, a picture of our students. Oh, I forgot, I'm the one actually doing this. Okay. And I already messed up, Steve. It's like I can't. I know. What did I hit? I don't hit it again.
You gotta hit each arrow.
See, it's-
No, that's you're hitting the back arrow. You want the forward arrow.
Oh, that would help. Like I said, the most important reason why we're here, we will start and end with our children. And being our youngest children is where we start. Our mission hasn't changed. We want to place our students first. That's the vision. That's the mission of Cromwell Public Schools, and all with equity at the center, and making sure that all of our students have access to a effective education. Do you guys want the lights? It's up to you. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think we're good with this. Thanks. Our Cromwell Public School goals are listed here. Of course, we want to increase academic performance, support implementation of K through 5 reading, which we've been talking a lot about, and 3 through 5 math. Support pathways at CHS, and we'll talk to you a little bit about how we plan to increase that support. Engage in best practices for leadership and professional development. Develop a STEAM-driven curriculum in the new middle school. Collaborate with the town on building and facility upgrades and maintenance, and sustain programming to support behavioral and social emotional needs of our students. You'll notice that our budget aligns with all of these goals. And now I will hand it over to Chris.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Macri. So basically this slide here is a summary of each of the objects within our budget, and I won't read each line to you, but you can see some have increased. We have a few decreases, which is nice to see. The big drivers here, of course, are salaries and benefits, which make up about 75% of our budget. And the proposed 25-26 budget is $40,516,219, with an increase of $2,225,975. Here's just another visual. This is an increase by object. And again, you get the sense of how important our salaries are within our budget. You'll see that they hold the largest increase. Other areas which have larger increases, benefits, our professional technical services, and our other purchase services. Those, of course, related to our special ed services, which carry quite a bit of cost within the district as well. And then you can see some of the other objects showing decreases or just minimal growth.
As you all know, we have expectations that we have to follow. And as Mr. Butwell just mentioned, our salary and benefits are 75% of what we are paying for. Another driver is special education. And we'll explain to you what we've done. You've been a part of the process of helping us support our students with special needs, and yet think of how to bring the cost to be more manageable, and yet doing what we need to do what's best for our kids. Transportation, obviously, and that's all kinds of transportation, and then other state mandates that we'll be talking about as we go along, and we've been talking about over the years. The next slide, there's just one error I forgot to tell Chris, and I didn't see it either. 24-25 is the BOE's adopted. We just give you a little history here, a summary. And you'll notice 6.37 increase. Last year was 5.88, and this year we're asking for a 5.81. And that should just say superintendent's proposed budget. I'm sorry. I didn't notice that. So just to get started, just to let you know, if we were to do a flat line budget, that includes all object lines remain at 0. We include salary increases per contractual bargaining, which is about $1.2 million. Benefits, which is about $330,000. Transportation, to and from school, field trips, athletic events, and energy and utilities. That would be a 5.19 increase. That's with nothing else. So what we're proposing to you tonight is a 5.8. A flat line would be 5.19. You'll notice the total amount by object, and you're going to notice some decreases here too. And then we'll talk to you a little bit. You can ask questions and, how did we end up decreasing and why? How did we get to that number further in our presentation? I think we did a really good job last year with budgeting for what we budgeted slightly differently last year for things that have increased over time. And we saw the trend over 4 years and we made a big change, which is why you're going to see some decreases. The next slide is the slide I always love to share with you. This is budget by object in a pie chart. Again, benefits and salaries, 75%. And then it breaks it down for you even greater. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Butwell, and he'll get into the nitty gritty. And at the end, we have all of our directors here, our administrators, to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, this is just a summary showing us that our salary increase proposed is just over 1.2 million. As mentioned earlier already, our contractual increases are the big driver here. We must pay our employees what we must pay them per contract. Also noting that it's a bit of a competitive market for teachers, so sometimes at hiring time, we're not always able to find just the right person. Sometimes the right person is more expensive. So that summarizes our increases for salaries.
I'd like to just explain this slide because some of you may have some questions. We did put a little line underneath it. So certified administration had a large increase, and the reason being is that Mr. Butwell is a certified administrator. He's working under his 092, and in the past, you could work under your 092 or your 085 as a director of finance. And in the past, that position fell under non-certified, so there's a decrease in non-certified and an increase in certified, the big number. So I just wanted to make sure I explained that to you. And these are the calculations of the increases. And no, our administrators did not get a $200,000 increase all on their own. $200,000, yeah. This is mostly one salary. Certified teaching, about $718,000. Non-certified, about $117,000. And substitutes, about $146,000 increase. Quickly, we'll talk a little bit about this later, how we saved a little bit of money, but it's going to be related to this slide, so I might bring you back to this slide later.
Okay, benefits. The big news here is our health insurance increase, which is the majority of this increase. But as Dr. Macri mentioned already, we initially had a 17% projection for our health insurance and recently found out that was going to in fact be 7%. So that was a great news for us. This line also carries the expenses for pensions, Social Security and Medicare, life insurance, and unemployment. So most of those numbers showed slight increases. We actually decreased our unemployment line a bit due to just looking at the actual expenses that we've put out for the last few years. So overall an increase of just over $300,000.
personnel services and programs, curriculum, professional development. This is where legal comes out of, audit. And we said the resource officer, I just want to make sure you understand that's only the 0.5 resource officer that we are still paying for. This is not the position that the town agreed to pay for. But it's still a substantial amount of this $370,000 increase. Oh, my mic's off. Sorry. So it's self-explanatory, and then later, if you have any questions, Sari and Chris would be more than happy to explain. I also want to just point out to you that ESS is in professional technical services.
I'll just mention on this slide also, Dr. Macri, that, excuse me, if you'll recall, earlier in the year, we talked about making a decision to split special ed costs. Previously, in the 500 section, under tuition, we carried the costs for student tuition, outplaced tuition, but also transportation and services. And so this year we made the decision to split those so that the services now are in this 300 section. So we did see an increase here to support special ed student services, but we did also see a decrease in the when we get to the 500s. There was a decrease because we took it out of that section.
Does that explain your question, Catherine?
No, I don't.
We're just noticing-
Because it should have been in already.
What we originally had in the binder book is slightly different than what's on the slide tonight.
Oh, I'll talk to you about that because of what happened at the end. Yeah, do you want me to answer it now? It's going to be a little confusing, but it'll come up at the end.
We can do it later. Then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll explain it to you.
And can I ask one more question? Is the excess cost sharing piece in here too? Because we're budgeting for that differently this year, correct?
Everything in here is with reimbursement calculated.
Correct, yep.
Okay, our next slide.
This one is, property services. Most of our expenses here fall into the category of facilities and operations, and some of our capital outlay for repairs and improvements, some of which you heard last week Claudio talk about. We actually showed a decrease in some of our maintenance costs this year, and so our overall budget, as you can see on the slide, is a decrease of $37,000.
Okay, I'll explain the next slide. Other purchase services, 500. So within here, this is, Mr. Butwell just mentioned regarding that split between tuition and services. So the increase this year under this line is $293,189, and just wanted to note that within this, under special education transportation, tuition is also homeless transportation, and this year we have actually in the past we've talked about a large increase in homeless numbers. So I guess on a positive, we have a lower number of students that are currently homeless, so we're spending less on transportation than we have in the past. This year we only have about, to date, 6 students, and we're only spending about $10,000 in transportation currently. So we budgeted a little bit differently for next year with that information. You never know if that could change, but.
So last year we spent $177,000 on homeless. So just to let you know, we had approximately 20 students, but particularly one scenario cost about $80,000. So it could change every year. This was, I said, kind of this, I'm very happy for the kids because I don't want any of my students to be homeless, but the stars aligned for us financially of how we were spending that money, which is why thank goodness we're in a good position right now. Where last year, this time, we were not in a good position.
The other big drivers in this area, so besides the special ed tuition costs and transportation, our daily transportation for all students from home to school is within this line. We also have our property insurance line and property insurance costs within this line, and our technology purchase services. Supplies for 600, you'll notice just a slight decrease in general. We saw an increase in some of our instructional supplies, and a decrease in some of our other like energy and cleaning maintenance supplies. So pretty flat, just a slight decrease actually. And then equipment 700. This can be broken into instructional equipment and non-instructional equipment. The majority of the equipment line is for technology. So about 333,000 of that 400,000 is for technology, large purchases for like laptop replacement, that kind of thing. And then a smaller amount is for equipment within the schools. Notably in the high school, earlier this year, you heard about the new pottery classes in art. So we're purchasing some wheels for that. And so just a slight increase in equipment, and then dues and fees 800. Those are the costs that we pay for memberships and fees associated with school-related activities. Actually, a decrease this year of about 13,000, mostly reflected by the fact that last year we had to budget for the NEASC visit to the high school, which was a large amount of money, about $12,000. So we were able to take that out this year because it's all set. But most of the other dues and fees basically holding steady.
Okay, so quickly, the total cost of education year ending June 2024. So the town appropriation is about $30,713,760. Not about, it's exactly according to our audit. The education equalization grant was $5,449,616. That's the money that we are provided based on demographics of our town, and everyone gets that, every town and city. And then in state and federal grants, we received $4,018,032. So there's the total, and you'll notice the town receives that money for the equalization grant goes directly to the town. It doesn't come to the Board of Education. And obviously, without state funds and grants, it would increase substantially. And let's hope that doesn't happen. And I will keep you posted with all of that. Okay, unexpected costs and special education budget. So this is where we know we knocked it out of the park last year.
My favorite slide.
It's our favorite slide.
But I have to give the credit to Chris. He got the numbers.
That's right.
And it was fun. We had fun while doing it. But
Oh, lots of fun.
so in the past, we've shown you the three biggest budget drivers in special education are tuition, transportation, and pupil services. So as you could see, the past few years we've been in a deficit when we totaled all of these three areas. But this year, because of the way I would say that we budgeted last year, we did include some potential outplacements while we were putting together this budget last year, if you remember, that we thought were going to move forward. We put that in into the budget. So that did help us because we budgeted more accurately, I would say. So this year we actually, right now, estimated have a balance of about 206,000. Some other things that take into account, I would say, the reason we're not in a deficit, we had some students graduate early, so that took off some tuition costs, as well as some unanticipated students that we thought were going to be at a cost and no longer attend Cromwell Public Schools. So you never know which way the pendulum will swing, but currently, right now, I would say we're in a pretty good place, and we hope that in future years we can continue to budget and make sure we add in those additional funds and won't have to be, in the negative as much. So it's a team effort. So.
Yeah. So remember the chart that we give you usually at the second meeting where we made our cuts. Remember last year, this was the first time that we've ever done it this way. Between the first time we presented and the second time we presented, we knew we had more students that we either needed to service, either we had a couple more homeless situations, and we had a potential outplacement that we were trying to work with within district, but we didn't think it was going to, we didn't know. So we went back, put it into that yellow portion right after this. So let's hope that doesn't happen over the next couple weeks. But that's what helped us really. We didn't go with the October 1st number. We can't afford to do that anymore with special education. We have to continuously check it and give you the number that we are going to get as close to before you vote on the budget. And that's what we did, and it worked out. Thank goodness, finally. Okay, the LEA and grant budget combined speaks for itself. See, LEA is the blue and grant is the red. And although it looks like the small portion is, it's not a lot, it actually is a large amount of money for our district. Oh, sorry, forgot to flip. I'm not good being my own Vanna White here. So that's what it shows. And then we were able to get this information, how much the average district expenditure was in Dirk D. And as you'll notice, we ranked 16 out of 24. A difference in average per student of about $1,200. And from the first ranked district being Old Saybrook, about $6,500 more per district. And we also were able to gather some other information for you. So Dirk D, we're all putting our information in as our budgets are approved by the Board of Education. So right now, North Haven Public Schools is going in with a 10.65% increase. Berlin is going in with a 7.4. East Hampton, 7.3. East Lyme, 6.99. Branford, 6.81. Southington, 6.6. Cromwell, 5.81. Milford, 4.87. New Milford, 3.9. And all the other districts in D have not told us their proposals yet. So we are doing pretty well, considering. And the reductions slide right here. So what happened between when you first got the first presentation and this one, we did look at pupil services. Mr. Butwell talked about how we cut some money out of homeless transportation. We think we're safe there, but you never know. This could change, right? Teaching and stipend salaries, we will be cutting one certified position that is currently happening right now in the budget right now. It'll be through attrition, and it is through very low enrollment. So our class sizes will probably even be small, just as small as they were this year. And no one will be affected. No one will lose their job. Then Dr. Alda, everyone asked for something, of course, and we went back and looked at what we need. Right now we don't have a secondary math coach, but in order to get to the 5.8 was Dr. McLean did ask for a secondary math coach. I did take it out of the budget, so that has been cut, but it was not budgeted for last year, if that makes any sense. It was just before we got to this budget. I also did, and that's where you get the 135, 246 is those positions. Support staff salaries, Claudio Bazzano asked for a floating custodian, and that did not make the cut. And then you'll see the benefits that goes along with the positions. So the good news is the additional savings from the benefits cost reduction was about $426,000 because we had budgeted for 17%, which would have meant that much more money. So I had put, just because ESS at the middle school, I had put that on the chopping block for us to look at because, as you all know, it was a one-year funded position. I have reached out to Representative Carpino and Senator Lesser. I've heard back from Representative Carpino. We are also applying for other grants with Natasha that we spoke to from ESS. But in the meantime, the program at the middle school is doing wonderfully. The savings is the second best part. The first best part is how many students are benefiting from the program and how many kids we've been able to keep at the middle school, and how many kids who probably would have only been able to get a little bit of services preventatively are getting serviced now. And that's what we want. We want preventative services for kids who may be in certain situations. So I ended up, once we got the savings from the insurance, I put the $150,000 back in. That doesn't mean that we're still not going to apply for the grants. That doesn't mean I'm going to leave Senator Lesser and Representative Carpino alone. I'm going to keep on them, but we really won't know until June if anything sticks. So putting that back in, and these being our only cuts, we're at a 5.81 increase. And again, on the last page, this is why. So we are ready for any questions that you may have. As we know more about other districts and where they're coming in at, but I'm sure you're following along with the newspapers. People are coming in at all kinds of rates. I think we did a pretty good job at coming in. And again, flat line 5.1 to 5.8 is not too bad. Questions?
Thank you. I think you did a fabulous job. I'm thrilled to see that it's 5.81, far cry from what we thought it would be. So,
Oh, good.
Sorry,
And
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, the question Catherine
good.
and you both had, it's the 300s line ESS. So I had cut the 150 for ESS. So that's why in that 300s line you saw $100,000. We were trying to work with them to get it down to a smaller program. What would it have looked like? But then I put it back in, so it's an increase in
Okay.
purchase services.
Okay.
And that's
gotcha.
why.
Thank you.
Sure. That's the big change.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
when you were talking about special education and being happy where we are for next year, I just worry when I look at the trend. We always expect something, and then next year, it's a lot more than we expected. So, what are your thoughts on how comfortable you are with next year? I know you're basing it on what you have now for students, but I mean, we do that every year, and something always comes our way. So,
What we just talked about, and I can have Miss O'Leary expand. So the fact that we changed it the way we did it last year, mid-year, and we're above water right now, is huge. But you're right. We can't promise that could happen again. But we're in much a better situation. But you're right.
just historically speaking, it's probably going to happen again.
It could
Well, yeah,
possibly.
I don't want to
happen
interrupt
again.
you.
No,
but
go ahead.
We did budget for this budget for next school year. We did put things that possibly are in the works into that right now, but like something could change next
That you
week,
know
right?
of, yes.
That we know of. The other thing that again, we haven't had the longevity with the data, but I do think we might be starting to see a trend where we are keeping more kids in because of ESS.
True.
So
Okay.
it is hard because it's not apples to apples, but and also the programming down, at ECS and WIS for our more intensive students that require more support. I want to say that's it's working because I again I don't want to speak too soon because something can change, but to date right now we've outplaced less students than I typically would have at this point of the year. I guess I'll just say, right?
And that
So-
doesn't mean, 5-6 years from now, 30 students, we've remained at like 30-ish, but a lot of districts around us have gone up, have increased. We are starting new programs. We do believe we would have had more placements at the middle and the high school. We also believe we would have had outplacements at ECS, the ABA program. It's beautiful. It's running beautifully for kids. It's awesome. Actually brings tears to your eyes because we finally have it figured out after 3 years on what makes it really good. And we need to mimic it at WIS. We know that. We just need a little more time, and it could possibly happen as soon as next year. But we probably would have been in the 40s as far as outplacement instead of in the 30s. That's not, I want to be in the nothings, but that's, the reality of it right now. So thanks, Sari. That's
Okay.
never know. You're right.
Thank you.
Could I just mention one more thing about that also? In terms of the budgeting process, Sari and I have worked very closely this year. We're trying to really crack the code of budgeting for special ed, but also trying to calculate their reimbursement as closely as possible. So in terms of what we're projecting next year for the reimbursement, we were very conservative and projected at 60%, which is what this year is predicted to be. But also just working with Sari and her team to really track students, track expenses, and try to project what we're going to be paying next year. So we worked really carefully at that.
Thanks. That's important. We talked about that a lot at the last meeting, and I think it makes sense to do that at this point because it's a downward trend. So who has other questions? Catherine.
Just a quick question about the reimbursement. The reimbursement, we always have been conservative, but this year the reimbursement rate dropped dramatically, correct? So
Correct.
the state reimbursement back to us for our special ed students is significantly lower than we've seen in the past, which can you just refresh my memory about what it was last year, the reimbursement rate compared to this current year?
Sari, I don't know the exact number for last year.
Close to
thought it was
70%.
68,
It's
wasn't it
usually
68?
close to 70. We might have been at like 68, 69. Yeah, I don't have the exact.
Yeah.
But this year we're anticipating the 60,
59,
59,
60, yeah.
60%.
So 10%.
But we did
So we
that,
could get
put that in the
40%
budget
next year.
For next year.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
If we get to if we get to below 59%, everyone's going to be in trouble. I mean, we're not going to be alone. We are okay right now for this year because, like I said, and last time, like every star has aligned for us this year, and we're lucky. But if that goes below 59%, and then we lose federal funding, we could be in a very different conversation by June.
Laura, you have a question? Go ahead. Can only work with what we know, right?
Can only work with what we know.
Yeah, just a question about that. So I know where I work, there's a lot of fear around the grants, anything with equity, inclusion. There's a lot of fear right now. Are we at risk for having any grants taken back or?
So what I will start to do after today, starting tonight, I will start forwarding you everything that I received from the Department of Education. Are we at risk? Yeah, we're at risk, and we're vulnerable as a school system in a lot of ways. It's hard to talk about some of this stuff and separating politics, and so I want to just say what I said to my administrative team this morning. We're going to take this in stride as we get the information and try to just make it factual without getting emotions in the middle. And it's really hard because a lot of us almost bursted out in tears this morning. Mm-hmm. It relates to families. It relates to kids. And are we scared? And I spoke with Jess Ritter again today, and I asked her, how afraid should I really be about some of this stuff? And she said, right now you should be really afraid. There's going to be a lot of lawsuits. We don't know how it's going to work out. But as of today, federal funding has been frozen. Right. We should receive our federal funding. It's blocked. We should get it for the rest of this year because we've received most of it already. But it is now done. Yeah. Did he block it? Oh, okay. So.
Yeah, I just got the email on.
Okay, I'm like, I don't know. Did that happen? Okay.
Yeah.
So it is an emotional time for the grants, the funding, our students who are immigrants. There's a lot going on, and financial impact, emotional impact, social emotional impact. There's a lot happening right now. So anything that I get from the State Department of Education in referring to these two things, I will forward on to you as an FYI, so that I can keep you in the loop. But we are working. I expect a decent legal bill next month. We are working with Shipman very closely, and they're telling us what to do and steering us in the right direction if need be. And that's what's happening every direction in every district. Yeah, you got a nice new one. You have a nice new one now.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So everything with equity in it, is that something that we have to look at taking, because equity is highlighted in the top page, right? So, I mean, is that something that, have you thought about that? Just from what I'm hearing, everything that has equity in it is being,
I think they mean like an
Diversity, equity, and
officer.
inclusion. Equity can mean so many things.
right,
For
I
me,
know,
it's
I'm
every
just-
kid,
but
every
it doesn't,
day.
we don't have to worry about that here.
Not in Connecticut so
Okay.
much, no.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Can you just take us from the 5.19, which you mentioned was with nothing else, flat line, to the 5.81 to just refresh my memory on so ESS is part of that increase?
Okay, so you want me to go backwards. So basically, what did I put in that's new?
Exactly.
Okay, so this is what we have, and I am going to refer to some of the people in the room to give you an idea. Hold on a minute, let me make sure I have it. I have it in my brain, but let me just go to the page. It'll just make it easier for me. All right, so the flat line is 5.19. We have added in $150,000 for ESS because remember that was grant funded. So now it'll be LEA if we don't get any other grants that we're applying for, which we are applying to quite a few. I did work with ESS today to give us another discounted rate on the contract, same as last year. They said yes. They wanted to go up $13,000. I said no, so we got that. We had some decreases in curriculum and instruction because science of reading was so heavy last year. So those were the two things that went backwards. We talked about NEAS. We've added in Michelle HR. Michelle's a one-woman team. She can't work. I thought she was going to be in the hospital last week again. She took my place from last year. She can't work till 10 o'clock at night anymore. She needs an assistant. She's the only director without an assistant. So it's because we had no room in central office. So the person who's going to be sitting in front is actually going to be the person who greets everyone because of the security piece is different now in the new building, and we have to buzz everybody in, and someone actually has to be sitting there. They'll be multitasking. They'll be Michelle's HR assistant and also letting people in and all of that fun stuff.
So we needed that position anyway.
We need
security person.
Yeah. So we're splitting it. That may change in the future depending on what happens with security and HR. But as of now, we think we can manage with splitting that position. We also have added in a cooperative work education position at the high school. So all the wonderful teachers that are coming to all of us and talking about pathways, which is great because we want our kids to be involved in pathways. We need someone to actually make that happen. So if Carrie or Andrew, Dr. McLean or Carrie, Andrew want to talk more specific to that position and what it would look like, feel free to talk to it.
What's it called again?
It's called the Cooperative Work Education position for the high school. And it's 882. Yep.
Yes, so this position is something that was encouraged through the NEASC report, but essentially, if you recall, years ago we came to the board and presented on career pathways and this concept of how we wanted to flip the script with how kids approach college and how they approach high school. And that is getting them as much exposure to the real world, job opportunities, internships as possible so they can kind of get an idea of where they want to go, what they want to do. So our Career Pathways Committee has done extensive work to build the foundation here, but we are essentially at a point, for those of you that do have students at the high school, you've seen that we've been reaching out about a Career Pathways speaker series that we're doing, where we're inviting folks in to share about their jobs and things like that. This position would take it to the next level for us and truly launch our program because they would be tasked with internships for our students, for our seniors, potentially our juniors, but mostly our seniors. and they would work with them coming in as ninth graders all the way up through their senior year to get them figuring out what they want to do, get them interested, and get them out to internships. And this, what we would then do, if we got this position, is we would actually then change our graduation requirements to mandate not only an internship, but a certain number of hours. Somewhere around 40 hours or so of internship experience would be a graduation requirement for all high school students graduating from Cromwell High School. And that would predominantly happen their senior year, where they would be getting placed in these internships. So this person, that's a huge part of what they would do, because we're at a point staffing-wise, we just don't have anyone to do that. Because the amount of time and hours that it would require for us to implement that component, it just doesn't exist. So that's a big part of what this position would do. They would also bring people in. They would organize field trips out to other buildings, possibly going to Pratt & Whitney, things like that, for kids who are interested in different pathway fields. And then they would, of course, help us with our planning and our program of studies and what courses should we be adding based on student interest, and they would assist and facilitate with that as well.
And can I just quickly add, so this is a progression, right, of the vision, I don't want to say my vision, our vision that we created together of, we're going to have a STEAM middle school, STEAM-themed middle school, right? So we are now working, Andrew, myself, Dr. McLean, and how does that transition so that our students are getting at the middle school this STEAM experience and they come up here and they don't lose it. So we're in the process of working on that. Then it naturally progresses to all the other classes that you've approved, either in the medical field, educational field, the arts, everything you've approved. So now they're having in-school experiences. How are we now getting them out into these career pathways and experiences that we've created in school, getting them out there and then making sure that they're getting good experiences. So it's all part of the vision of Cromwell Public Schools. And we had expected it that would take about 10 years, and we're in year 6. Like we're getting there. So it's coming alive.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah, it is, and that's the big highlight for us. And again, if this were to get approved, we would then shift to our graduation policy to align that to support what we're doing here.
Okay. Any other questions on that topic?
I have one.
Go ahead.
So we have a pathways and coordination coach. Is that person doing some of that work now, or, is this kind of a
Gotcha.
double up?
So the pathways coordination coach is only a .2 position. He teaches 4 classes, and so that is just that. And basically what he does is he goes back and forth with Central, because we have many Central courses, and so he makes sure that those Central courses are up and running and everybody has the right curriculum and everybody has got the right books and things like that. So he's not a full-time, he doesn't do that full-time.
Alicia.
While you're up there, credit recovery tutor. Can you just explain what that is?
Yeah, that was next. So this
is
is actually a cost savings, and Sari and Andrew can come. Right now we have, well, go ahead, I'll let you guys explain. Here are the.
This is still in the works, but I'm very excited that it's in the budget. So right now we definitely have a handful of students that are having some trouble with coming to school, gaining credits, staying in class. We use a credit recovery program in Hartford through IOL right now for some students. That kind of takes the place of that. Some other students we use some tutoring for, so we kind of have various different opportunities. But what we don't have is our own credit recovery program. So we put in the budget for a 3-hour-a-day teacher tutor, so we can offer students that are really struggling coming to school, struggling gaining credits, to come to school, potentially after the school day. I've worked with some other directors that do this to gain credits. So it's really a way for them to get into the building with less amount of students, less chaos of the hustle bustle during the day, and they can work, in a quiet space. So there is still more to kind of be evolved with this position and the program, and we'll definitely fill you in once we have more information. But that's kind of the premise around it, that we would like to offer students our own in-house program before having to, outsource.
And we do think it's a savings. It's better for our kids. And if we can get kids usually it's kids with anxiety who don't like to be in a large environment. They'd rather just do their work online instead of going through IOL, Institute of Living. We would do it ourselves, but then we would also be able to offer a therapeutic piece because we have our school psychologists and social workers here. So there isn't that disconnect if it was, if something was needed desperately.
Yeah. The timing of the program is they would come in right at the end of the day, so they would have access to those positions, our school counselor, psychologist, social worker, for the last 30 minutes or so of the student day currently, but that would be the way they would start their day here. And then they would go into the credit recovery piece.
So even though it's a new position, we do think it's going to be a cost savings if we could bring everybody back. And then again, that's slowly too, right? Just like when we went from CTAA, like some parents had to really buy into, this is where my kids are going to go versus the Wesleyan program. We have to do it slowly, but it's eventually going to be our program, our kids, our district. You belong here. This is your school. You just need to come after because of your current situation.
Do we think we'll have staff internally that are interested in doing those extra hours?
Yeah, we
Try
have
to
it
keep
slated at $45 an hour, and it's 3 hours a day. So yeah, I think so.
Sorry, I didn't raise my hand either.
Rule breaker.
I am. I apologize. It's numbers. I get excited. The assistant for Michelle, is that in our budget already? Like, where is that part of the other certified
None.
staff? I'm sorry, not other certified staff.
It's part of the non-certified staff.
Certified staff personnel in central office. It's on the very last page of that. One of the second to last page, the bright yellow. Is that where it is, Chris? Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, it's the very last page. It's kind of in purple ink. It's in a separate box on the very last page of non-certified.
I don't have that page. Oh, I don't. Yeah, I don't have that page. No. No, I don't. That's all I have.
Do you have it, Kelly?
Wait, your
Kelly
dog?
has
You have
it. No.
Here, I'll give you mine.
No, that's okay. I can.
Hey, I'll get one tomorrow.
Sorry, Catherine.
That's okay. Oh my God, look at it. I was like, how come I can't find this?
I'm like, I know it's in there.
Go ahead, Alicia.
I'm glad to see that in here. I think this actually also would be a cost savings because it might help improve recruitment. It might help with retention. And certainly I always am amazed that Michelle does what she does by herself. So I'm really happy to see that in there.
Not to
Yeah, I
mention
don't like
all the
to brag.
contracts.
All the contract. I don't like to brag about my staff, but you guys are pretty lucky. And I'm really lucky. She's amazing. She does it all by herself, and that's why it can't continue because I'm afraid she's going to leave me, leave us. She would never. But still, at the end of the day, we need somebody else to help. Because the talent recruitment piece, all the stuff that she's amazing at, that she does on the weekends or at night, like, for example, the paid sick leave, she and Lori put everything in by hand. That happened while she was supposed to be on vacation. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. So that could have been someone else doing that work.
Who has other questions? Alan.
On the central office, see legal fees went down 10,000. Is that because less union contracts?
contracts.
Okay. And the other one that just stuck out is, it's not big, but the publishing of the annual bus routes went from $0 to $1,100. Is that something new we're doing, or what?
That's an expense that has always occurred, but for some reason was not in the budget. So I just added it.
Thank you.
Every contract with a very fine tooth comb, which I'm very happy to have him here. But he's like, do you know? I said, no, I didn't. So he put it in. A lot of what has happened too, you'll notice, is appropriating in the right lines, thanks to, to Chris.
I took this as an opportunity, being new to the position, to really try to learn the budget inside out and also ask a lot of questions, because I really get 1 year to ask all those questions and say, I'm new, I don't know the answer to that. So in that case, Alan, I added the publishing cost.
And I like that you also removed names of people tied to positions, because I've always thought that was very unusual.
I was
like
told
kind
to
of
leave
an invasion.
I was told to leave it forever. I'm like, this is ridiculous. We need to take it out. Well, you know what we forgot to talk about, which was awesome, and Steve and Chris can talk about this, is, did we talk about it? We talked about
Not
it
yet.
so much together that I don't know if we talked about it tonight. Isn't this crazy? There's a technology piece that I want to, Chris will point you to, and Steve von Bachhoven have been working very hard on this, and I'm so excited about this, and you're going to be too.
Sure. And the 700s, the capital outlay section of your binder. So basically, one change that we did make this year, I worked closely with Steve to see if we could actually make this happen. We have in our 730 capital outlay for instructional equipment. This is, as I mentioned earlier, costs that we use to purchase laptops each year for students. Steve has a replacement schedule for certain grades get new laptops at some point as they move through the K-12. So in the technology 730, we were sort of on a carousel of taking technology loans each year, and then buying what we needed for that upcoming year, but then having to take 4 years to pay that loan off, which, really, the interest rates varied, but over the years, the interest really did add up. So I spoke with Steve, and we talked about how can we get off of this loan cycle. And so we, this year, decided that we would not take a loan for the upcoming year, and we would look at what we have in stock already, and then we would budget for what we really, really need, but not take a loan. And then we're going to continue to do this process and let those loans pay off and eventually get off of the loan train. And it's going to save the district a good amount of money over time. We calculated that in the last 4 years, we've paid $80-something thousand just in interest. So we really want to get rid of those fees that we don't need. And our goal is in 4 years, we won't have any loans, and we'll be able to put more of our district money directly towards our technology needs.
So when I came here, I saw that loan. I was like, oh my God. First, I found out that it was legal, because I had to go through legal counsel, because I'm like, how do we even do this in public education? But the technology here was just horrendous. And I think all of you were parents at the time, so you know how terrible it was. So we were moving in this direction because we had to do something very, very quickly. And then COVID hit. And then we had to do something even more quickly. And we did get some grant funding, but we couldn't drop the loan. So this year, Chris and Steve met quite often, and then they met with me, and then I said, if you guys think we could do it, let's give it a try. I don't want to pay anybody $85,000 in interest if we could keep it in the district and give it back to our kids. So we're going to give it a try. Steve is very confident. If Steve's up there too, so you can ask questions. But we are sure that we can do this.
This first year will be the
Hard
worst
part.
the worst year. We budgeted just over 90,000 for our tech upgrades for this upcoming year, but then in 26-27, as the second loan drops off, we'll be able to budget 150,000. In year 3, as the third loan drops off, we'll be able to budget 210,000, and then the fourth year the loans are all gone. So maintaining sort of our about $300,000 amount that we spend each year to replace technology, by year 4, that will all be just our LEA money and no longer have any loans. And that would be a place where we can probably save in year 4. We might be able to make some cuts because we won't be paying that interest.
Catherine.
I just have a question about our technology. I know that back in COVID, we converted everybody to a one-to-one device, and there were a lot of issues in replacing them and everything. But do we have like an average, and it's probably more for Steve, an average life of each device? And I'm sure it might vary for different age of students. And how long are we expecting these students to keep them? I know some kids are much more aggressive with theirs than others. I understand that, but the person who takes care of their device is usually penalized with keeping it the longest, and the thing is on last legs before it's replaced.
So that's what makes this us able to get through this first year. Is Google has done 2 things. They've extended the support for updates for the models. When we first went to one with Chromebooks, they had I think either 4 or 5 year software update policies for the version of Chrome OS. They've significantly lengthened that, which allows us to get more use from the Chromebooks. Additionally, we have an ample supply. Like the seniors that graduate this year will turn their Chromebooks, and those will be used in inventory to support the upcoming, used to replace and used as loaners for students that have aging devices, let's just say.
What's the average life of a Chromebook?
The average life, I would say, we could easily get 5 years out of a life. Right now, when we buy them, they're on a 4-year cycle. So we don't get the 5th year. But what I'm trying to do is use this upcoming year, as the year to get that extra. We'll be buying for kindergarten with this year's this proposed budget. Normally we buy for 1st grade, but we're going to change the schedule and go K to 4 and get 5 years out of that Chromebook. And just find that's going to make the schedule and benefit the lifespan of it better.
Can I just ask a quick question on that same topic? So are you saying you just replace them when they're expiring, or is there a schedule that, okay, you've had your Chromebook for 4 years and here's a new one?
Typically the schedule we had is 4 years. So at 1st grade they would keep it all the way till to the end of 3rd grade, 4th grade, and they would get a new one in 5th grade and use that all the way till at the end of 8th grade and get a new one for 9th grade. It keeps it clean and orderly, and they get a fair good amount of use out of them, and most of them make it through that period if treated properly.
Yep. Okay.
Again, if every student was ideal, we would get 5 years out of them all, but it's not always possible.
They're not.
Any other questions on this? Lori? Oh. For Steve or no? Okay. Thank you, Steve.
I just had a question on under other professional technical services. For the athletic trainer fees, I just noticed it went from 50,000 to 70,000, and it just 20,000 is a big jump. So I was wondering if you could elaborate on that.
Can you tell us where that is, Lori?
It's under
What tab?
well, it's under the top page. It's in the 300.
What tab is it?
It's under tab.
It's in the high school
High
budget.
school. If you go to the high school, it's like flip 2 pages in, and it says at the top, it says Object 330, Other Professional Technical Services at the top, and down under at the bottom, the part where it says co-curricular, the very top line says athletic trainer fees, and it went from 50,000 to 70,000.
So I will have Mr. LeMay come up. We're lucky. I had a big discussion with Select, who we work with,
Oh.
and it was supposed to be this year, and I said, no way, Jose, we can't afford it. But we are on the low end of the spectrum of payment, so Josh is going to explain all that to you.
No, I can't.
Is there a
hear
red
you.
light?
Hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So in general, we were paying the 50 grand for our athletic trainer, and some legislation was passed. Don't quote me on the name of it, but I think it was a general living wage increase. And what it said is that athletic trainers needed to be paid a minimum of $57,000 if they were in their first year. So 21-year-olds coming out into the field were making $57,000, and we had $50,000 budgeted. So we have a veteran trainer, and in addition to the general wage increase being passed, other schools, I have some of the information here, we're still on the low end. So in our conference, Westbrook is paying $75,000 and benefits. Old Saybrook, $72,000 in benefits. Valley Regional is up to $80,000 and benefits. So we are on the low end of the spectrum. And what was happening is there is a huge athletic trainer shortage in the state. There's more schools to cover than there actually are athletic trainers. So what's happening is people are being poached. People are jumping ship to higher paying places. We are lucky to have Keenan Love, who is an alumni of our district. And basically the reason for that increase, that $20,000 increase, is so that we can have an athletic trainer. Our basketball team tonight is at East Hampton. They do not have an athletic trainer, which poses a lot of liability issues and different things of that nature as far as student safety. So a little bit of a roundabout answer, but the reason for the $20,000 increase is because the minimum they could be paid was that $58,000 and $70,000, so we could hope to retain a athletic trainer in our district.
So just so you understand, this position is not in our budget. This is in professional technical services. We contract out for this position. It is not a mandatory position to be at every single game and every single practice. Do I think it's, I don't even know the saying. This is where my ESL comes in. A dollar smart, a penny foolish. Is that the saying?
Dollar wise.
The opposite. There you go. Sorry, learned Italian first. So I always mess all those little idioms up. We're really playing with fire. Our kids have good access. Then I spoke with Select and said, we've been great clients. We send you all of our kids. They come to you. You can't increase this on us this year. But we will put it in the budget for next year. Can this person go and work somewhere else? Absolutely. Would it be a loss to the district and our kids? Absolutely. I want our kids to be taken care of. I don't want to have to call 911 every time every single thing happens. I want to be able to do something immediately. I mean, that is up to you.
Okay, I have some follow-up
You know.
questions. So, okay. Sure. Okay, so I guess my first question is, so Keenan, that you said that's his name, he's from Select PT in Cromwell. He's employed by them, so does he get his benefits through Select PT, not through Cromwell Public Schools, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so currently, what are we paying him this year, this school year? What are we paying him? Are we paying him the 50?
We are paying Select.
We're
We
paying
are not
Select.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're paying Select 50. So are you anticipating next year we're going to be paying 70 to Select for him?
We're going to be paying 70 to Select.
Yes.
Correct. And like I was saying, some of the comps, they've made them district employees to their athletic trainers, and they're paying the salary that's a little higher than the 70 that we're contracted to pay. And then the district is incurring their medical benefits.
And we may not even be able, we have no idea what Keenan's salary is because it's made through Select. Like it may possibly be more. The expectation from our end is that we contribute $20,000 more than we have. And they wanted it to start in September. And I said, no.
Can I just ask one more question? And then I know you had a question.
Right, and then additionally, Mr. Kuckel wanted me to add that next year, that $70,000, it's the last year of our contract with Select, and then we can decide as a district what we want to do going forward after next year's contract ends.
So does he just work for Cromwell?
Is Keenan?
Yes.
Correct. He's budgeted just for Cromwell Public Schools. And I don't know the exact answer. I actually want to retract that a little bit because he does have other duties for Select, but we do have him for 35 hours a week. So he's basically full-time Cromwell Public Schools and Cromwell Athletics.
Okay, I know you had a question. Yeah.
So I do know that under that new bill that a lot of districts have already started hiring full-time athletic trainers to keep them and keep them happy. So I'm assuming that's something we're going to be looking at very heavily and considering if that's something that we want to do. I know that another school down the road just hired theirs before he was ready to walk out the door without that full-time offer. He was gone and we would have been out of luck. So
correct.
Something we're looking at?
Correct. Well, first of all, you're absolutely right, and there's absolutely like poaching going on because people do not have an athletic trainer. We know how important they are, as Enzo said, for student safety, diagnosing concussions, medical emergencies, and all that. But I would say that's absolutely on our radar that we have one more year of the contract with Select, but then we absolutely are going to brainstorm how we want our future to be so our student athletes can be safe.
Yeah, and Keenan's not here throughout the school day. Generally, he's here after school and at different events, whereas if we potentially hired a full-time one, they would be here during part of the school day, I would assume is what happens, and students aren't leaving school to go to appointments because there's nobody on site to help them.
Potentially, and
We would have
But
this
that's
person
just a-
would be an independent contract, so we'd have to decide like what do we want this position to look like? What is Cromwell?
If we hired them.
Yeah, if we made them
They become
our
they
employee.
become a town employee,
Yeah.
a Board of Ed employee.
Like,
Okay.
Josh
Spending
said,
way
we'll
too
have
much
to-
time on this.
No,
Sorry
no,
about
no.
that.
Well, we're going to have to brainstorm. Is that something that we want to look into? What is going to be best for our kids, and what is going to give us the biggest bang for our buck in services? And we're going to have to talk about that.
And I can keep bringing, as we go further with that, I could keep bringing comps from the Shoreline Conference. But in general, what it's been is that they're paying them well, they're giving them benefits, they're a district employee, or they can't fill the position, such as East Hampton tonight and Portland, the last opponent that we played, don't have athletic trainers.
Go ahead. Sure.
He only goes to our home games then. He doesn't travel. Correct. Am I right about that?
Correct.
Okay.
And the history of it is we used to know or expect that the opponent would have a trainer on site. And then the other problem is usually Tuesdays and Fridays, if we're talking mainly basketball, if the boys are at home, the girls are on the road. So he can't be the two places at once, so he stays at the home game.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. LeMay. Any other questions on the entire budget? Matt.
My first of I'll try to have many. Excuse me, my voice is still a bit rough because I'm recovering from a cold that Steve gave me. I'm blaming you. Under the curriculum and instruction tab. Just looking down, I think it's the second. It's the back side of the very first page. So the second page, there's a number of items, Foundations Hub all the way down through Snorkel. They all had 0 for the previous adopted, and now they all have amounts for proposed. Are these all new? Yeah. Okay. And then Parent Square, $14,000 new. And is Parent Square that the communication thing?
Yes. So that we met with a couple different companies. We really need a.
Thank you, Sari.
for safety reasons and for ease of use with our employees, we really need one communication system district-wide. Currently, we have some schools using this, some schools using that. It's not as effective as it could be. We are saving in some places because we're not purchasing blooms, so that is offset in
Okay.
some cases. But that was something we thought was a priority for this year, to make sure that we had a parent communication system that was consistent district-wide.
So, I mean, I'm familiar with Parent Square. I use it where I work. I know that one of the advantages is the recipient of the message can choose what language they get it in. So I know that's a big deal.
Wonderful feature of it. They can translate the message into, I mean, I want to say upwards of 50 different languages.
So at the same time, like there's some criticisms of it where it's like, well, you could just email and use Google Translate, in a Gmail thing. So I guess there's some give and take, but in some cases it almost seems like we already have pretty good communication service. I understand trying to consolidate into one, but like, you mentioned we're going to cut out blooms, for example. What's the cost savings of getting rid of blooms? Like, it's not going to be a wash, right? And
No, it's
Parent
not
Square
going to
is
be a wash,
more
but
expensive.
we're also getting rid of Entrado, which is our Power School piece.
Okay.
So it's not, there's two programs that are going to be replaced with Parent Square. I think it's really about ease of use as well. We have had some situations where we think that we could have communicated probably a lot more quickly, had the programs not been as clunky as they are sometimes. And so that was really what I think put it at the top of the list for priorities for us when we were looking over some safety issues that we had, is making sure that we can communicate with families as quickly and easily as possible. And so we currently have a Power School add-on that's called Entrado, and we use Blooms, and so we are not purchasing those two. And I'm sure I could find this.
If you get a chance, I mean, obviously not
It's
right
right
now
on-
on the
yeah.
fly, but I'm just, what is the cost savings without
Alright,
Blooms
so
and Estrada?
Blooms is 2,300, and Entrado.
Entrado, sorry, I've been saying Entrada.
Part of Power School?
Yes, but I'm.
Only because I feel like somewhere else I saw the Power School price actually went up, and I was wondering if that was an add-on that we were purchasing. What's that?
It's at the top of that page. It's like 4 and 5 down from the top.
It was in another place too, actually, because I circled it.
Yeah,
It's
that's
right there,
Blooms, but
Tier 1, you're using Power School for tier. If you look at the top here, see where the Power School was 0 for customization tier 1. So that increased to 1,200.
yeah,
Oh, it's
that's a
only
different thing
$80.
though.
Different thing. That's what I mean.
That's for report cards. Yeah.
Right. So that went up in that area. There's so many different things.
Oh, there it is. The Student Data Management
Oh,
Power
there it
School
is.
enrollment went up from 34 to 41, and I was just wondering if there was an add-on. But sorry, the Estrada part
Yes,
was.
there it
It's
is.
right below it.
Yep, 4,400. So,
Okay.
of that 14, it's the 20.
Yeah, so it's 14 minus 67, so that seems a little more reasonable.
Can I just jump in because I use that as well, and I just want to say that I find it so easy to just click, who the student is, send a message to the parent. I'm able to, of course, use email if I choose to, but I find that I go to Parent Square constantly, and you get notified immediately, and our school sends out messages to the whole community. That's like their main form of communication, and it hasn't been glitchy at all.
Well,
So
maybe it's just
pretty
because
reliable.
it's the first year that we're using it where I work.
Mm-hmm.
Parents, I've had more parents complain to me about it than praise it. That they're getting
Too many messages?
4 messages about the same thing in 4 different locations.
That's
and,
always a struggle, yeah.
That and I have most of the families I work with. I tend to get more emails directly than them using Parent Square. It's
Because
almost
that's what they're
it's
used
almost
to.
odd for them to use Parent Square. So maybe it's just that it's still too new.
It was new to our school this year too, but
Can I chime in? My
Makes
son,
sense.
I
Sure.
have it for my son in Southington, and I love it. And I only communicate with the teachers through Parent Square, and it is super convenient. And I think most families that I've talked to really, really like it. And maybe because it's new, but for your district, but I have nothing but positive to say. So hopefully we feel the same.
I didn't realize there was a
and
translate.
minus the 6,700 is
I
definitely
was surprised that I had a
helpful because
response.
14 is kind of a big.
Spanish.
It's a big ad.
Yeah.
That must have been why.
Thank you.
And then you could translate.
Yeah. What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I do think we do a great job with communicating, if I must say so myself, especially if you saw what happens behind the scenes. If you're at central office when the fire alarm is going off at WIS and it's 10 of 3 and the buses are coming in 10 minutes and we really don't 100% know what's going on and we're listening through the walkie-talkies, myself, Mr. Butwill, Dr. McLean, I'm trying to make sure the principals and the assistant principal are feeling supported, making sure I can get the kids back and forth. There's a lot of guesswork going in. So in the back of my mind, we're always thinking we have to notify the parents, but I have to get the kids to and from and where safely first. And a lot of people are having a really hard time with understanding that could take some time before I can get information out. Parents in Trotto have been cheap over the years. It comes at a very cheap price. It's clunky. We've been able to figure it out, and everything that you're saying, Matt, is true. But we're at the point now where I feel like I don't blame parents for being really nervous. We had an issue at the beginning of the year. It was part human error, part click. You have to click 500 different things to get one out by phone, one by text, one by this. You can't have this many words. You can't have this. It's a nightmare. So it's time for us to move on. I am worried about some of the same things that you said. Like, we have complaints right now of people who are saying, we get a repeat of, I don't want to. So that's going to happen, and I think it's going to happen even more so with Parent Square because it's just so much more effective. It goes everywhere to every single, and then the only good thing is I think you can click off what you don't want it to.
And at what time you want it to hit certain things.
Yeah.
Like
Whereas
notify me once a day.
With this, it's on or off. You either get it or you don't get it. If you click off, you don't. So it's time for us to do it. I think we did a really good job. I just, I don't want parents to. I'm sure they're all worried.
That aside, though, I think it's good for sharing information from the homeroom teachers. Like, you can easily just send a weekly update with pictures, and it's so much easier, less cumbersome than any other method, I think. And then as a parent, one last thing, sorry, I don't mean to belabor this, but when you have an email from teachers to read, and they're lengthy usually, and you have a few students, and you have a lot of those emails, it's so much easier to just go to one source, and they're all there instead of sorting through your emails.
Having kids in different schools, one school uses Bloom's, one uses Class Dojo. So having one universal system would be amazing for parents.
Yep. Which is a huge part of.
Sorry, Matt, you had other questions, right? Beyond that.
I have a question on this page, if we want to.
Okay.
Zoom, are we still using Zoom now that we have Google platforms? I mean, it's only $1,800, but just want to make sure it's still being utilized.
The administrators have licenses for Zoom. Those are the only people in the district that use it. We still don't 100%. We feel like it's on. It is on.
It's just quiet.
It's on.
Not close enough. It's not picking you up.
Yeah.
The administrators have Zoom. I think we feel like it's a little bit more secure. It has a little bit more features than using Google. I suppose we could use Google. It's not.
Google used it at a company for 8 years.
Google?
It worked fine. So, just somewhere to save a little bit of money.
The nice thing about Zoom for my staff, for PPTs, you have the waiting room. Google
lets you in
doesn't
right
have
away.
that. And then there's also the free Zoom. So my staff is still using the 40-minute free portion. And when they know they have a meeting that's longer, they'll use one of the admin accounts. But we do we do appreciate Zoom for PPTs. So.
Sure. Alicia, go ahead.
So I think there might be a math error, unless it's my math error, but on the curriculum total for 24-25 adopted says 385. I don't know if we're giving ourselves enough credit or giving Dr. McLean enough credit. 385, but on the front page it's 337. So we either saved a lot more money in curriculum.
They moved things around.
Yes, that's what
That's the shift.
what
If
the
you go
issue
to
is. So
under
in the
central
cleanup-
administration, on the next tab, the second page. Isn't that one of them? I'm sorry, wait, that's not it. It's under system. System-wide?
Dr. McLean, do you,
It's under
do you have the
system-wide.
answer more readily available?
Can you help me?
You're on the right
Yeah.
track. You were on the right
It's on.
track. We
It's
did-
under.
we
There's
did
two of them
move
on the
some
same
things.
page. One's under system-wide. There's highlighted yellow.
Yep. And one is under
And one is-
central administration.
Yes.
Both of those things, what we did was, like Mr. Butwell was saying, we cleaned things up. So if it's professional development, then it should live under my umbrella.
All of these
And
were
so we brought all of those things back into the professional development
Okay.
umbrella and took them out of wherever they were living before. So we did make some switches and changes in the way that we are presenting things so that it's more clear as to what they really
It's
are.
46,690 if you add it all up. So if you put the 4690,
Yep.
it's still off a little bit, but not as much. And the same if you look at underneath professional development.
Well, I was guessing 50,000, so that's pretty darn close.
If under professional development, we moved $25,000 from here to professional development, because this one also doesn't match the summary page, and that's why. Sorry,
Okay.
my finger's bleeding. Does that make sense?
Does it add up it should add up perfectly if that was
Well, I can do math. I'll do it now that I understand where it went, but I was just impressed that you had all these new systems that Matt pointed out, and you still were saving money. So that's
Yeah,
all I wanted to say.
We're also not using iReady anymore. We took away a lot of programs and we added in some programs to help to supplement we think better programs for what we're doing now. We've made a lot of changes, so the programs better align with what we're working with now.
If you see us, even if it's a small financial error, email us because Chris is already looking.
I can give it to Chris. I can email it to you later because I do have it all calculated.
Just
out.
email it to me and as a central.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Just
Yeah.
so that we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Chris will find it by 8 o'clock.
For both of them, I have it, so I can send it. Because the one underneath the professional development total is also off from the summary part.
All right.
But yes, my budget would have been much less had we not done that. If we had not moved them in.
But I still think that you did better than last year with some of the decisions you made.
Oh yeah, I think we did. I think we did well. That it was. I mean, obviously, I didn't have a whole reading program to purchase either.
Yes.
So that helped.
Okay. Any other new mandates that are not mentioned that you can think of? I know last year we had a bunch of new mandates listed as, contributing factors to the increase, but it doesn't seem like we have anything, knock on wood, yet new.
No, not that's going to have
Yeah.
yet.
Okay.
I mean, there's a legislative session that's going to happen, but not that had the financial impact that the last year did.
And whereas districts are still piloting, we're moving. Our kids, it's awesome. ECS, WIST, you walk through those classes, they're moving. So
Teachers are really liking it too.
Yeah, it's great.
They're working really hard, but they really appreciate the program, and it's really helping our students.
Who else has questions? Are you good? Does anyone else have a question before Matt asks his next one? Go ahead, Matt.
Under system-wide, the second to last page, just up at the top, under licensing and service contracts. So we have Google Workspace for education licensing, and that's just over $5,000. Then we have Microsoft license agreement with Microsoft Office 365. Like, I know that we've been cutting back on using Microsoft products. Like, we used to have our email through that, and we've gone away from that. I guess
We still have the operating system.
So
we
that's just the operating system?
Yeah, it's just 360.
Okay, so
I
that's
mean,
not like-
360 comes with all of the other bells and whistles, but you can't get it without it.
That agreement is based on FTE count, so it's based on employee count.
Yeah, Microsoft.
Full-time employee.
If you need to route them.
Gotcha. So that's actually the operating system. I thought, in my mind, that was just the Office suite, and I was like,
Oh yeah, no,
are we
no.
even
It's
using
our
that
whole.
anymore?
It's our whole operating.
Okay.
System. Yeah.
All right. Then I'm fine with that. Thank you.
All right, Catherine has a question. Go ahead.
Oh, my mic's been on the whole time. I'm not turning it off. If you go under the WIS tab, if you compare the WIS increase compared to the other three schools is significantly higher. The other schools are around 5%, and this one is almost 18%.
It's the other tech services. Once we bought the program, we put it into the school. Chris and Carrie. Look at
line 330.
It's because so the reading program and the consumables and all of that is going into the schools. So once the program is purchased, the consumables go into the schools. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, is it the instructional supplies? Yeah. So that's what
So
it is.
there's instructional supplies that are definitely higher, and a few other ones that are just probably helping to drive it up. So is it only in this school that we're doing that?
So the thing is that, so we purchased the reading program for K through 3.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain consumables for that. However, we are aligning and writing grades 4 and 5 reading internally. And so we have to purchase all of those books as we develop the curriculum. So that's why WIS is higher than other schools, because we're still in the process of updating grades 4 and 5 to align with our K through 3 and align with the state curriculum that just came out. So we have more things that we will need to purchase there than we will at ECS or any of the other schools.
So that's our $14,000 driver?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Anything?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, more from Catherine.
Well, there's none from anyone else. Okay, so my tabs are helping me dramatically. Under Cromwell Middle School, I'm just wondering, our instructional supplies that are increasing, I expect them to go up a little bit, but this seems a little bit higher. Is this because we're preparing for the new STEAM school?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's definitely higher than I expected, but I assumed it was from the new school. Okay, thank you. Unless somebody else has one.
I don't think so. Gave them opportunity, so.
Okay. This is under Cromwell High School. And it is, flip pages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So at the top, if you flip 6 pages at the top of the start of the 7th, it's Object 611 Instructional Supplies. The numbers are 51,000 actual for this year, 79,000 adopted, and 88,000 proposed. We have a huge increase in guidance. Is there a reason why? 9750 to 15,000.
So starting this year, we're going to give 2 PSAT opportunities to our students. I'm thinking that's what. So because that testing is unique to the high school, they put that testing into their budget.
So we're no longer giving iReady.
We don't have a benchmark assessment.
And now we're going to give the PS.
We're going to give an additional PSAT.
Twice
Yeah.
I'm sorry, for freshmen and sophomores and
Yes,
juniors?
not juniors.
But just once for juniors?
Yes.
Because they take the regular SAT in
Yeah.
the spring?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I just have one quick question about the position that we're eliminating through attrition. Don't tell me which school or which position or anything, but I'm assuming that it was thought out, looked at the classes coming before, if it's elementary, and that we're good for a while as far as not needing that additional teacher?
The way I look at it is, if you look at our enrollment report, you'll notice where there was a high and you'll see where there's a dip. That dip is going to be consistent throughout the entire career of Cromwell Educationists. We have 30 to 40 kids walk into that specific grade level. So we should always be on the lower side before the pendulum swings again. I look at it as a year-to-year budget. I could have 20 kids walk in August and I have to make a switch. But right now it looks like we're okay. And if we have to add somebody in the future, we will. And it may not be where we lost it because it depends on where the pendulum kind of shifts. But as of now, we're okay.
Okay.
And we're okay for the future as long as it stays exactly where it is.
Gotcha. Okay. Any other questions? Catherine?
I'm more under the high school. If you keep flipping to object 739, non-instructional equipment, it's not a significant amount, but I'm more curious than anything. What is a track protector carpet? And why are we all of a sudden, is it new to us? Is it like?
I'm going to grab a mic.
We've been closely looking at the track overall,
Yeah,
and the condition that it's in, and we've been working with the town to replace the rubber on there. One of the things that we saw during the process is, one, bleachers on top of the track, because parents want to be closer to the field, so they don't want to sit behind a fence. And people walking across the track and with regular shoes. Track's not supposed to be walked on by anything, any equipment or any regular shoes. It should only be for the track stars. And if you have a soccer game, you have soccer players walking across a rubber track with cleats. There's a mat that goes across it, so when you're crossing from one side of the track to the field, it's a mat.
Okay. So will this mat go down along the sideline where parents sit because they put their
No.
folding chairs on and everything else?
That won't once we put a new track on there, parents won't be inside the fence anymore.
Okay, perfect.
The plan is to get them on the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
We've requested funding through the town, through the capital outlay, for bleachers, so we can get some taller bleachers, so we can keep the parents on the outside of the fence. Only people that should be inside the fence is players and the coaches.
Yep.
And that's it. And anytime you have equipment, whether it's a cart or anything, it should go across the mat. It shouldn't go across the actual rubber track.
Okay. So Mr. LeMay is going to be in charge of making sure they don't ruin that anymore.
Yeah, we talked.
Awesome.
Yeah, we talked.
That's going to be a
Josh
tough
and I
job to
talked
get
about
high
that.
schoolers.
Care of the stuff we get.
I know. I agree. Okay.
We may not get it for another 100 years.
I know what those. I've seen them, but I didn't know I didn't know we were getting bleachers. So I thought that what are we going to put it all the way along the
We
sideline?
requested bleachers so we can get those bleachers that are there are lower.
Yeah.
So if you put them on the outside of the fence, you're basically
You
looking
can't
through
see.
the fence.
No.
So they've been placed on top of the track, and that's not a proper way of doing it. So we've requested taller bleachers, larger bleachers, so that we can place them on the outside and be more protective of the actual track once we have a new rubber track.
You'd be
on there.
shocked to see what else parents put on that track too. To be able,
Well, dude,
you
that's
don't
a-
want to know.
well,
So
well,
that's a good
why
idea.
there's
I
a
like
gate
this
there. We'll
getting them
work
all
on
out.
that to make sure that you can't bring anything on there.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll jump in while we're talking sporting equipment. The cheer mats, same at CHS, line 690 or object 690. We had 8,500 last year and 4,200 going in this year. Did we purchase mats this current year? And I'm just kind of curious what's going on there. I don't know what their full replacement
Josh,
is on them.
I'm sorry. I probably need Mrs. Prestash and Mr. LeMay.
For the cheerleading mats, there's a series that you need that get Velcroed together in order for them to compete. The 8,000 was only one mat. So we have to fill in the rest of the mats in order to have the full set in order for them to be able to compete.
Understood.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Matt?
Cromwell Middle School, under that tab. It's 1, 2, 3, 6. Looks like page 8, object 540, advertising printing. The adopted budget last year for student assignment books and student folders was $3,000. It's up to $3,500. I'm going to assume that's inflation, but I guess my question is, do we really have students who are still using paper assignment books, and like can we start to encourage other uses? Like, we have the Google Education Suite, so the students have access to Google Tasks, they have access to Google Keep. I know that, I have my students using those things, and most of them prefer them to a paper one. The ones who prefer paper ones, we're now basically printing, like using, Google Sheets to make our own for them, for the ones who really want those. So I guess, is it a necessary expense is really the question.
Yes, because we like to give our students, some students really like the paper pen, and some of their families. We work with the kids and the parents to say which would best suit you. Some kids really want the handwritten assignments, so we always keep those on hand, and they are used. And
Okay.
it's included in there as our folders. Every student gets a folder at the beginning of the year, and that's, believe it or not, that's
I'm all in on the
costly,
folders.
too.
I think the folders are a great idea. I'm with you on that.
And we don't get that many. It's not like we get one for each student. We just get enough that, and by the end of the year, we're out of them because
Okay.
kids will utilize them.
Okay, good to know.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks.
It's really interesting. I'm sorry. We just live in such a different world. Like, I would never have walked into my school. I went to Our Lady of Mount Carmel and said, that pencil would have lasted me 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and I'd go home and I'd be afraid to even ask to sharpen that pencil. I'm at WIS, and I know there's so many other things that the kids need. They're carrying a pencil, a this, a that, and I understand it. But the amount of times they walk in and say, I lost my earbuds, I'm like cracking up. I'm like, oh my God. Like, we just hand them out, and it's become part of our culture. And I don't know if it's good or bad, but it is. And so I think, like you're saying, if you lost your, like, I'm sure Ann gives the same kid 3 or 4 or 5 of those books a year, whereas it was probably 3 or 4 or 5 when I was a kid, I'm older than you, that we would ever replace. And you'd be darn scared to ask for it. You'd have to make your own. That has changed. You see, yeah. It's just really hard.
Other questions? Alicia, do you have one?
Just a general comment. Thank you for what you all did. I was so pleased to see the first version of the budget because I expected it to be much higher, and then the revised version of the budget. And I know this is really hard, and you put in some things that were very important to our kids. So thank you.
It is our pleasure, all of us.
All right, one more question from Catherine.
All right, this is my last one, I promise. Yeah, and we got the budget books. I think this is the earliest we've ever gotten.
Yeah, aren't you
them.
so happy?
I was
know.
like, what's that? My
Mr.
budget
Butler-
book out there? What's happening?
We made a plan, and we followed it, and I didn't get any went back. Mr. Brutwell just did whatever he had to do, and the whole entire office, Lisa, Sandra, everyone in that office really.
I was shocked and pleased. Okay, so under student services, let me make sure I'm looking at the right piece. Okay, yeah, because we had some replacement ones. If you flip one page, so that you're looking at object 323 pupil services, and about halfway down, you'll see outplaced student services of paraprofessional support, and then the OT, PT, and other services that we have. We have no comparison to the current year, or 23, 24 even. And so I'm wondering, is this for students that are What does this include? Where are the students that we're doing this for? Are they in various locations?
Yeah, and so
And are we-
these are the ones that we moved, these services that we used to just keep in tuition. But we've decided to move it to pupil services. It benefits us for many reasons, for budgeting purposes as well. So these are for outplay students that have paras and or outplay students that have services.
Does this include outplays to correct schools and everything? And are we, I know at one point we were talking about cost sharing with different districts on these. Are we still considering that, or is it, your faces are making me think it's not working?
No, we try. We do our best with everything as far as transportation.
Yeah, we cost share for transportation, but we can't.
even paras.
For paras and everything, we can't.
No, unfortunately not.
And does this go all the way up through high school? Like if we have students that go to like Vinyl Tech, are we sending paras there to provide? Does that include Vinyl Tech in this?
Vinyl Tech students who actually go to Vinyl, the tech schools are not considered our LEA anymore.
Okay.
So that doesn't include this. This truly includes IEP students that are outplaced due to their IEP.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Matt.
So I actually had this whole section highlighted too. This was my next question after I let someone else go. You stole it from me.
You saved the best for last.
You had your chance.
What's
I've
that?
been asking 50 million questions, and I offered it to
I feel like you and I are kind of volleying for serve right now. So I just want to make sure that I understand. We're paying tuition to the places that we're sending these students, the outplay students, and we're sending personnel, or we're
We're not-
paying for
yeah.
additional personnel there.
We're paying for like a paraprofessional, but what we've decided to do this year is we've pulled it out of tuition, and it's really a pupil service.
Yep.
So the paras that some students may have a one-to-one there.
I understand, and
We're
thank you,
paying
because I
for
didn't
that
understand that
additionally.
before you
It
said it.
increases the cost.
But
if you have a
so
para.
we're paying tuition, but then we're also paying for their staffing?
If
at
they
that
have
school?
a
For their
one-to-one
service, yeah.
yes. If they have a
You would
one-to-one,
think that would be included in the tuition.
there's usually a base rate, and then if they have a one-to-one para, it makes the rate higher,
Okay.
and then
So
depending
the
on
base
their
rate is-
services. Yeah.
Right.
And then if it's a student with special needs, then whatever the extra is for the services, then we get billed for that. So if we're talking about just a regular magnet school
Gotcha.
that someone decides to go
So
to.
we're actually not even deciding what the salary is for that individual.
No,
that's
we
being
don't decide
paid.
anything.
The other district is deciding that and billing us.
No, yes.
Okay. I did not understand that before
That
just
is
now.
in legislation. Actually, they're trying to get one
Right.
price for everything so that we all know they're trying to pass that. That would be a good thing. That would pass. That is why when we come to $1,200 at the end of the year and we make this happen, we're miracle workers. Because how do you budget? Like, who budgets like a school system? It's crazy. There's so many variables.
I can tell you that I do appreciate, and I've had communication with a number of state representatives over the past week just about outplacement costs, and then because I know that they're working on trying to get a hold on it.
Mhm.
So we've bounced around some ideas about ways to kind of do that. So I do know that they're
Give us one
focusing on
price.
this.
We're being taken advantage of, and I can't
And it's
necessarily
not,
say
you
that
can't
it's
control
better.
it. You
No,
have
there's nothing we can
there's
do about
nothing
it.
you can do. I
It's
do
terrible.
appreciate that the legislators are currently looking at it, because it's definitely becoming problematic.
Does this include students who are out of school suspension?
So students who are no, if you're out of school, if you're suspended out of school for up to 10 days, expulsion is different. Yeah.
And expulsion.
So it all depends on the student. We have to make sure we provide a program for a student that is expelled. Every student, depending on their needs, looks a little differently. So we come up with what we believe is best for that student who's expelled, and that's actually going to work, and then we provide it. So this is separate. That's separate.
Thank you.
You would see it more in the tutor line.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Did you say there was a schedule about enrollment or a chart on
If you go on
current
to
and future enrollment?
Yeah, if you go onto my page.
Oh, it's on your.
It's on my page at the bottom, and it says projected enrollment for the next 10 years,
so I
and
didn't
you
see-
can
okay.
see it in there.
Thank you.
So we have this on for possible action tonight. How do we feel about, do we want to keep asking questions? Do you want to sit on it for a week and come back to it? Is anyone comfortable with it as is? What are your thoughts?
If you vote tonight, we don't have to come back next week for more fun. There is really not, there is, it is what it is. I'm very excited about this. I wasn't nervous at all because we know where every single penny is. We always do, but we really do.
Great job on your first budget.
Thank you.
Poor guy. He can sleep. You can sleep tonight. We're both gonna sleep. No, you're gonna sleep. I'm not because we're having a snow problem. Just a little.
Are we? Oh, flurries.
Flurries. But I'll still be up at 4 a.m. with Claudio.
I'll be home.
What, you think there might be a delay?
Just never know what's crazy. I'll still be up at 4.
What do you think, Alan? You're pretty good? Does anyone not want to proceed with voting on it tonight?
I like everything that we've heard tonight. You guys have great responses and reasoning for what you're doing. I really do appreciate all the work you've done. I also really appreciate some of the moving around that you've done. Me personally, I like to absorb it for a little while, and that's just me personally. I'm
understandable.
As of right now, I'm happy with what I've seen and what you've done and your answers to the questions. My fear is that we would vote on it in 3 days from now. I'd be like, oh, wait a minute, I should have. So I hate to drag us all back here a week from now, and I know I'm going to get an angry text message from several of you later probably. But I would prefer to sit on it for a week and take another couple looks through. I mean, this is a big chunk of change for this town. I think my personal feeling is I'd rather take another look.
All right. Sounds fair. All right. So if there are no other questions for tonight, we can table this until next Tuesday. Give you another chance to take a look, bring some more questions to the next meeting. So with that, if there are no other questions, we'll just, I don't know why we have topics for future agendas on here, but we can just ignore that. And if there's nothing else, we can just adjourn this meeting and thank you all very much. Be back here next week, and it'll be 6 o'clock again next Tuesday. All right.